They've lost their will to fight. They become like conscious objectors. They're just like, we don't even care. There's nothing, we don't care about anything. They've lost their will to live, basically. And the idea that our Jimmy could kind of start to glimpse a reason again, to exist and have that be on his own terms, I just thought was really fun idea. But it's a bit of a rant.
You would often refer to their poet's heart, right? And how ironic that it's the robot's heart that is broken, right? I mean, they're...
Yeah, and that they are really like these beautiful poets, that they really have this kind of, when they were made as these beautiful objects, but with the idea that, like I said, I just like the idea that the actual Issa being born was a thing that nobody, like, it's like saying, like, oh, I'm gonna design a creature that loves Santa Claus more than anybody. And like, he'll kill for Santa. And then Santa shows up, and everyone's like, oh fuck. Like, now what? Like, he's fucking real. And that's problematic, And then someone fucking blows Santa away.
My God.
Well, I mean, he is sneaking into people's houses, so
So we're talking about the Jimmies being these beautiful creatures that were built, right? And what were they built from? This leads us to the conversation about Oracle Steel, and this unique substance that's in our universe.
So Oracle Steel is our crazy. That's what Nemesis's swords are made of. It's what the Kryptonian swords are made of. It's what Jimmy's armor is made of. So that's why when he's just standing there getting freaking pummeled by those molten shots, he's kind of doesn't. He's fine. It's not that big of a deal to him. They are killable, but you gotta really, it's not an easy task. So, but the idea that the Oracle Steel has memory, it has, it's a mystical substance that, I think there's a really magical and deep dive to the idea that their skin, their metal skin is of a magical substance that we have yet to discover. No?
Yeah, and bringing that to Nemesis and her swords and gauntlets. I remember you saying that, again, very, very provocative, saying that Nemesis herself was not a sword fighter prior to her donning the gauntlets.
Yeah, that the gauntlets, I think she says, that the gauntlets basically taught her, it's like all the knowledge of like past generations, because, like she says that, generations before hers, there was a martial society, but now they had like become peaceful, and that she didn't know anything about, she never killed anybody, she didn't know anything about that, and then she cut her arms off and put those gauntlets on. The gauntlets, like, she basically downloaded Neo style, how do you fight, I know Kung Fu now, basically.
And it might not download the same information to different people.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
It's conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's
what are you good at? What do you have an aptitude toward? I'd probably be like a gardener or something.
A potter.
A potter,
yeah,
for sure.
Totally. Pinch pots. And we have the same substance with the Kryptonian swords as well, but they've sort of altered this, right? They have a different relationship.
Correct. And I think that was the thing that we tried to do sort of symbolically. If you look at the Kryptonian swords, is they have like a little motor on them, attached to them, that fires them up, where Nemesis are turned on by her own hands, her now hands, but she wills them on and off. It's her, some kind of, And meanwhile, like, the Kryptonians have to push a button, which is so sad for them, to turn on their swords, which is just really pathetic and loserish.
And we've played this idea that hasn't always been the case with the Kryptonians. It's sort of like as the relationship with the Mother World.
The closer they've gotten to the Mother World, the further away they've gotten from their relationship to them.
Yeah, to the Oracle Steel.
Yeah. And that was once a spiritual connection. And that the Kryptonians were awesome. What's that? Oh, you wanted some audience questions?
Yeah. We're going to take some audience questions. Right here in the front of the hat.
Oh, front of the hat. Nice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people here that
Reveal the secrets. How do you do it? Yeah. No, I absolutely, we've talked about it quite a bit, actually. You know, I was, yeah, I think that they're absolutely, we've talked, literally in recent months, I've talked a lot about, like, really, well, an experience that I had at film school was, and I'm not sure, you know, you guys there's probably fresh film students here who can probably understand this better than, you know, I went to film school quite a while ago. Obviously, I'm an old fucker. But when I was in film school, like, some of my favorite stuff that I did was the Super 8 classes that I had, you know, where we would shoot Super 8. And now, philosophically, the thing about Super 8 that's really interesting is that when you shoot a Super 8 film, you know instinctively that that film is not the movie. That's not the one that's gonna be your greatest film, right? Because you're like, it's Super 8, it can only go so far, right? I'd have to shoot it again at 35 if I was to, like, if it was a masterpiece. If this Super 8 film I'm working on right now is a masterpiece, I'd have to shoot it again at 35. I never thought of that. But you could. And so my point is that, like, I wonder that in film school right now, because, like, anyone can get a red camera, I would say that an average film student's access to the same gear that I shot this movie with is real, right? Like, getting a red camera and some Zeiss high speeds is not crazy. That's not a crazy thing. Like, you know, you could call me up and be like, oh, I got the camera. Should we shoot? So, but the problem is with that is that camera can make you think, like, oh shit, this might be the movie. This might be the movie that makes, you know, this might be the masterpiece. Fuck, I gotta be careful. And you can choke yourself, as a film student, you can choke yourself out because you can't just let it be a movie. You can't just let it be exercise. You can't let it be practice. You know what I mean? Because there's a chance. It's awesome. And the gear makes you think it's that. So I really wondered about, and the conversation we've had about, is like, is there a format that's not this, that's in between, that allows film students to, like, really exercise more and make more films and practice? Because I got a lot of practice. You know, also I made TV commercials for 10 years. So I got, you know, I practiced quite a lot. I got my 10,000 hours before I made Dawn of the Dead. You know, I knew, when I went to the set of Dawn of the Dead, I had been a director cameraman for 10 years in commercials. I'd done TV commercials all around the world. I'd shot with everybody, at movie stars, and, you know, I might have been a first-time director, but, like, there was nothing on the set. Not a thing, not a piece of equipment, not a scenario that I hadn't seen before, right? That I hadn't kind of, you know, understood. And I just think that would be a thing that I would be interested in doing, is, like, getting to, like, the real down and dirty, deep bones of shooting a scene and understanding it. Because I think that's it's a thing that I think, you know, it's a language that is intuitive and obvious, but it's fun to just do it, you know. You just want to shoot it and to feel it, you know, because it's once you're in the language of it, it's a really, you're like, oh, I see. Like, a lot of things become obvious, and I think that comes also with a relaxed and not pressured point of view. Like, when I'm on set making a movie, even Rebel Moon with Johnny, whatever, I feel very relaxed with the gear and with the language. You know, I feel like it's intuitive, and I just think that's a thing that you want to get reps to get that intuitive feeling. So when you're on the set of your movie, you're not like, oh fuck, like, this is the shot, this is the close-up, oh fuck, I'm gonna fuck it up. You know, like, you want to feel like, no, this is cool, I'm good, like, I'm not nervous, I speak this language, and I can do this, you know? So I think that would be a thing I would love to, like, talk to students about and figure out how to make them feel comfortable in the way they see, you know what I mean? Because, like, I've always said over the years also that, like, the way you see, any one of you in here, like the movie you make, the world through your eyes, that's the thing I want to see. Like my favorite movies, and I'm sure you guys agree, are the movies that are made by guys and girls that don't give a fuck about whatever the normal way of seeing is. They're like, hey, come with me, look at the world, stand behind me for a second, and this is what I see. And you go on those journeys and you see those movies, and it's moving and it's emotional and it's unique, and you're like, I wouldn't have thought of that. That's crazy. That's cool. And that's what I want to see from you guys. Is like, take me somewhere, show me something that I wouldn't think of, that I couldn't have imagined. And I think that's a great and cool thing to cultivate.
Guy in the overcoat?
Oh. Got a mic for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was right. Thank you. I did want to ask that, a big thing. I know this may not be part of the Rebel Mood, but I do want to ask that, where was Bane during BVS? I have a question.
That's a good question. Where was Bane during BBS is the question.
But the entire, the apocalypse before Superman.
Yeah, where is Bane? Where is he hanging? Where is he?
Jim.
I don't know. But I love the question. It's my favorite question. Oh, I'd have to really, yep.
How about here in the red and black in the center?
Netflix representing.
Netflix.
In the R-rated versions, I noticed in a couple of scenes, Cora had some scarring that wasn't there in the PG versions. Are we to believe that's from, her time in the Imperium? Or is there like a deeper story we'll get into later, maybe on that? And then also, Titus had a t-shirt with some black X's on them in this movie, and I've seen you wear that in interviews. Is there any significance to that?
Okay, yeah. First, Cora's scars. And Sophia's here. We talked about it. Yeah, she's hiding, but she's here. And she's incredible, so you can all just hear her. Anyway, yeah, so the scars were a couple things. Yes, her time as a warrior, as a soldier, and that she was deep in it, and it was that the sacrifices that she made. Also, the crash, in her escape from escaping from the death of Issa, and her being tracked across. It's 4 years. The timeline is 4 years from the death of Issa to when they show up on Velt, the Imperium. So there was 2 years where she was kind of knocking around the galaxy that we don't see. That's the Issa Chronicles, whatever, or the Korra Chronicles, call them whatever you want. Anyway, that where she was escaping hawkshaws and bounty hunters and whatever, and then she ends up on Velt, right? So all of that would be part of that story, and then I think that Sophia really wanted to make sure that the character. The sort of ethos of the character was represented, that she wouldn't just be this not a mark on her, that there's a price, and I think that I was really into that too. So I was like, yes, that's cool. And then the black X's are just, it was funny because I'd seen the shirts and they'd come out with all the sort of distressed t-shirts that we had on set, and especially Titus's are really cool. And they had the little X's. I was like, those are X's are really cool. I don't know, what does that mean? And they're like, well, it's just they're like little repairs to the shirt. And I was like, okay, cool. Can you put those on my shirt? Yeah. Okay, do it. That's what happened.
How about way up there in the back of the gray shirt? Waving your hand. Yeah, right there, yeah.
What I've always enjoyed, and I think many of your fans enjoy, is the close appreciation and reflection of illustration, comic book artists, but also classical artists in your design and your of the scenes and the cinematography and cinematographers that you hire. I mean, this film in particular had many callbacks to old master paintings and the lighting utilized in it. And of course, your love and generous treatment of comic books and great comic book artists as well. So I was wondering if you could just speak about that, because it's
Sure.
something really distinctive about the way you work that is not reflected in a lot of other people working in film.
Sure. Yeah, no, yes, it's true. I'm a huge fan of, fantasy illustration, whether it be Frank Pranzetta or like Caravaggio or whatever. And I do effort to, I'm a student of lighting, and so that, the way the masters, I'm a huge fan of like window light, I'm a huge fan of top light, I'm a huge fan of like, even just the scene with like, where Titus is getting washed, is very much like, you can imagine is just very much, it's like a skylight kind of lit scene, and it's very sort of classical in its construction. And so, yeah, for me, and because I draw, and it's my hope anyway that, as I'm sort of conceiving, whether it be a scene or the sort of palette of the movie, I do try as best I can to constantly keep my eye on the ball of like, what is the sort of design aesthetic, illustrative design aesthetic of this scene or that scene, and how do they connect? And the truth is, on a movie like this, it becomes, at first, in the early stages, sure, there's plenty of reference, actual paintings that I'm like going, yeah, this, that, this. And then what happens is it becomes this sort of ecosystem of its own where it like begins to reference itself, which I think is kind of the ideal situation for a movie like this, is because like even like if you look at, there's 2 movies, so it's 6 hours of shot making where you start to like, or like from a mythological standpoint, you're like, oh yeah, that reminds me of this, which is actually a scene in the movie from earlier, and I think that is the ideal scenario, because you then start this kind of closed loop ecosystem where even from a design standpoint, where you start to like really create your own world, but there's always the notes and there's always the underpinnings of like those original references that that I've kind of loved, Tiepolo. The list is probably endless, of painters and artists that I, even, Wyeth we talked about, and it's everything, so, yeah. What's that? Yeah, I mean, sometimes, we'll have some, because I'll be drawing, and then if Jared is doing a painting, and I'll be like, we'll talk about it, and then he'll show me a painting that he did that's really awesome, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool, that makes me think of this, and then, so it is a constant conversation, between like the concept artists, my storyboards, the production designer, there's like this kind of, echo chamber that is good in a good way. So yeah.
Try to balance the room here. Do we have any women that have any questions? Are we in the back there? Yeah.
So, what do you put into writing your female characters?
Yes.
Because I know Cora is a badass, so is Diana, so is Mira.
Yeah.
What effort do you put into that?
It's funny.
Capture-
I mean, it's a good question, but I feel like it's not it doesn't feel like a lot of effort, you know, and I'll say it feels really natural. Like I have strong women in my life, and they're very powerful. Debbie, as you know, is literally Wonder Woman for me. And so, and you know, and I have amazing daughters, and I had an incredible mother who was unbelievably eccentric and powerful. And I just think that, like, for me, you know, this sort of divine feminine is really an amazing and powerful thing that we all have to sort of bow down to. And I think that really, I guess for me, it's the less sort of self-aware it is, the more natural it feels, I guess, is kind of the way I approach it. But, you know, just, I think the thesis of, like, this movie at its core is about Korra, you know, is about this powerful warrior woman who has to, like, kind of forgive herself, you know. And I think that as sort of a thesis the rest kind of takes care of itself. But yeah, I think that's how I kind of approach it.
Thank you.
DJ? DJ.
Look at that out there he is.
Just a simple question. Given the enthusiasm for this sci-fi heavy metal freak out, like, it's got to be a no-brainer at Netflix to just greenlight 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not in charge of that, you know. I just do that, and then they tell me. So, yeah, from your lips to God's ears, I guess, is how that goes. Very good. Thanks, Deej. DJ, of course, was one of the visual effects supervisors on the Push a Picture. So that was a little bit of that was a teeny bit of an inside job in the questioning part of it, but you can't resist DJ. You gotta. Wait, does the birthday boy have a question? Yeah. See him right there?
Birthday boy.
Birthday boy, give him the mic. 16. He's 16 today.
I just want to say up front, this is an amazing way to celebrate my 16th birthday. So, how did you get the courage to make the Zack Snyder's Justice League after, of course, the theatrical cut? Well, we all know.
That's a great question. I would say that yeah, it was a daunting thing. It was like I was at this crossroads. I wasn't sure the movie would ever happen. As far as, you know, I had this weird piece of faith. You know, it's funny because DJ was there at the beginning, like, or at the end, I guess. The end was the beginning, but like where I just kind of was like, you know, there was that time when we had to cut, and DJ was like, you gotta just. That was the whole joke about us leaving it on a hard drive in a bathroom in the Hong Kong airport. You know, there was this whole kind of like, you gotta just do it because it's never gonna come out. The movie's never gonna come out. Like, that's it, it's dead. Like, that was our conversations we would have. And I said, you know, I don't know, I got this weird feeling. I don't know, call me crazy, but I have this, I think there's, you know what, let's just see what happens in 5 years or whatever. And what's that? Yeah, who knows? Exactly, who knows? And so, you know, cut to, you know, we had all kind of, you know, sort of moved on in our minds, but not in our hearts. And so there was always this kind of like drumbeat that the fans kept going. Like, it was almost like the fans didn't like let it go, you know? And I think that because the fans were not gonna they didn't let it go. And so the fans wouldn't let it go, and so it kept making me go like, wow, really? Like, is that a thing we should do? And then, you know, and I just think that then the planets aligned, and we found ourselves in a position where we could at least approach the powers that be and say, like, look, this is a good idea, and like the fans clearly want it, and I know how to do it, and like just let us do it. And you know, surprise, surprise, they were like, okay. And I was like, what? So the courage came from, you know, the fans, and sort of the heart came from us, and the rest is history. I also like your Risky Business t-shirt. I feel like that's a very appropriate shirt to be watching this movie wearing. It's kind of like a weird, there's a symbiotic relationship between Risky Business. Stanford could use a guy like Joel. I know that.
And I believe we have a raffle. I think that was
raffle.